Usually, animals in the wild will try to stay well away from humans out of fear. So when a tigress approached a lone man, he did not expect the unbelievable thing that she would ask of him. The wilderness has always been a magical place and one that Josef loved to explore. Situated in a small rural village in Russia, Josef was born and raised alongside the magnificent forest which surrounded the village. All throughout his young life, Josef was taken into the forest by his father to learn how to hunt, track, and generally appreciate the beauty of nature. As Josef got older, he took up a job as a hunter as he knew the forest well and knew how to look after himself while getting the best game available. But little did he know that his love for the wild would lead him to a situation that would change his life forever. It all started as a normal day for Josef. He woke up just as the sun started to rise and headed off into the forest so that he could get a good start on his hunt. A few customers had asked him to get some meat, and he was running low himself, so Josef entered the forest with the aim of getting a lot of game. As the morning wore on, the sun basked the forest in an ethereal glow which the hunter simply couldn't believe. Once it had reached midday, Josef decided to take a break for some lunch. He had already managed to hunt a few birds, and he decided to cook one for his lunch. He was in an unfamiliar area of the forest, but Josef wasn't scared as he could always follow his tracks back to the village. Ahead of him, the hunter could see a lot of light, which meant that there was a clearing which would be perfect to rest in. But as Josef entered the small clearing, he never would have expected to find what he did. Standing in the middle of the clearing was a tiger. Josef froze in fear. The animal had clearly heard the hunter coming as it was staring directly at him when Josef emerged from the trees. But despite catching the man off guard, the tiger didn't seem to want to hurt him. In fact, the feline was acting very calmly. Taking the animal's behavior as an opportunity, Josef quickly raised his gun and leveled it at the beast. Still, the big cat didn't move and simply stared at the hunter. Confused by the tiger's behavior and not wanting to shoot the beautiful creature if it posed no actual threat to him, Josef slowly lowered his gun and began to creep towards the animal. Seeing the man move towards it, the tiger began to take a few steps back, growling softly in warning. As the animal moved, Josef noticed that it was clearly female as her teats were full of milk. This meant that she had some cubs nearby. Another thing that Josef noticed about the animal was that she was clearly limping. Worried about the tigress's health, the hunter softly called out to her as he got closer. This seemed to calm the animal as she stopped growling and allowed the man to get within a few feet of her. Once Josef was closer to the big cat, he realized that the tigress's wound was much worse than he thought. It looked as if someone had tried to shoot the poor feline, and it had caught her in the back of her leg. However, it wasn't a clean shot, and it had clearly gotten infected to the point that the animal's health was compromised. Upon seeing the horrid state of the wound, Josef instantly tried to help, but the big cat kept him away with her growls. The animal then did something truly extraordinary. She turned and started to walk away towards the edge of the clearing, but stopped just as she reached the trees. It was at this point that Josef began to hear tiny little mews and growls. It was the tigress's cubs. The adult big cat gently picked one of her babies up from the ground and limped her way back towards Josef. Once she had reached him, the feline gently set the cub down at the hunter's feet. She then went back to retrieve a second cub and left it right next to the first one. Josef was incredibly confused and astonished by what was happening. He didn't know what the tigress wanted him to do with her cubs, and he was too afraid of what she might do if he tried to touch them. It was at that moment that the tigress began to walk away from the hunter and her babies. Josef was shocked and tried to tell the animal to wait. However, the feline merely looked up at Josef one last time before disappearing into the woods. The hunter was stunned at what had happened. However, he knew that the mama tiger wouldn't leave her babies if she didn't need to, and he feared that the adult feline knew that she didn't have much time left and wanted to make sure that her cubs would survive. Not wanting to leave the two young tigers alone to fend for themselves, Josef scooped the animals up in his arms and made his way back out of the forest and back to his home. Once safely back in the village, Josef decided to take the two tiger cubs to the local vet. He wanted to make sure that there was nothing wrong with the babies so that he would be able to raise them as best he could. The vet gave the two young felines a clean bill of health and told Josef how to look after them, including what to feed them and how often as they grew older. The hunter thanked the vet and took the tigers home, where he followed the vet's advice to the letter. As time went by, the two young cubs, who Josef named Sasha and Alexei, began to grow larger and stronger. At one point, officials from the nearby city zoo became aware of the two young tigers. They approached Josef and offered to buy the two cubs from him so that they could become part of the zoo's attractions. However, despite the large amount of money that they were willing to give him, the hunter refused to part with the animals. He believed that he would be betraying the mama tigress who had entrusted her babies to Josef for safekeeping. Eventually, the time came for the two tigers to be returned to the wild. They had grown into beautiful young adults and knew all of the skills that they would need to survive in the wild by themselves. Josef was sad to see the animals go, but knew that it was for the best, as the forest was where they belonged. A couple of years later, Josef was walking through the forest looking for any good game to hunt when he suddenly had the idea to go back to the clearing where he had first found the tigress and her cubs. He hoped that maybe, despite the odds, the two animals that he'd raised would somehow be in the area. Upon getting to the clearing, Josef noticed that it hadn't changed much, although there seemed to be quite a few odd holes dug in the ground. Thinking nothing of it, the hunter decided to set up his tent and camp in the clearing for the night before heading back to his home the next day. Looking up from his campfire, he saw a huge grizzly bear coming out of the woods and into the clearing. The bear noticed the hunter straight away and immediately began to charge at him. Josef realized that he had left his gun in his tent, and so, with no other option, he jumped up from his seat and sprinted into the woods and away from the bear. The huge grizzly kept on following Josef and soon caught up with the terrified hunter. Just as it was looking like Josef might not survive, two orange and black blurs appeared from the trees and got in between the bear and the man. As Josef started to calm down, he realized that the two blurs were actually Sasha and Alexei, the two adult tigers he had raised. The tigers made sure that Josef was behind them as they fought off the angry grizzly. Eventually, the bear got fed up and walked away. Josef couldn't believe that the two animals he had raised had come to help him in his time of need. After checking that Josef was okay, the tigers both made their way back into the trees. Although Josef knew that he would never meet them again, he was overjoyed to see the two animals healthy and doing well in the environment where they belonged. Let me know what you thought of the story in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome videos.